If you've ever watched the weather on TV, you've probably seen one of these, a weather map. These symbols are called fronts. Fronts form when warm air meets cool air. One air mass struggles to overtake the other. It's like a battle going on in the sky. Here's how it works. The blue soldier is cold air. The red soldier is warm air. When they fight along a front, this usually means bad weather. If the cold air wins by pushing the warm air back, you have a cold front. But if the cold air retreats as the warm air advances, you have a warm front. If neither air mass can win, the front is stationary. In spring and summer, fronts sometimes can bring rain, strong thunderstorms, and even tornadoes. In winter, depending on where you live, fronts can bring snow. If it's raining or snowing where you are, it usually means there's a front close by. I'm Marny Stanier, the Weather Channel.
Well, let's go right on into today's focus and talk about fronts up close and personal. This is a typical model of a front. The blue occupied by the cold air on the map, and the red, the warm air, and a little bit of a wave, like a wave on the ocean, warm front, cold front combo. Now the warm fronts would be the line with the red semicircles or half a circle, blue line with triangles, cold front, advancing this way, warm front this way, and counterclockwise circulation around low pressure, which would be right at the apex of that wave. The warm front would move further northward and a cool front further southward. And sometimes these cool fronts catch up with the warm fronts, which we'll get to in just a minute. High and low positions, this would be the low, and the high back here as things turn around kind of like this. Now let's sort of put a slice right through one of these fronts. This is looking up and to the surface, right through with a cold front coming through like a plow. There's warm air ahead of it, it's rising, and it usually has some moisture. You lift that moisture by this plow effect, and you get showery precipitation, sometimes even thunderstorms. Now with a warm front moving in, it's a more of a gentle type of a change. The cold air is heavy, it doesn't want to be displaced. This warm air is lighter, pushing it from above, and that rising up of warm moist air over that cold frontal surface gives you clouds and precipitation. Another look at it, as in maybe springtime, possibly a situation that could give you severe thunderstorms. We could see a cool front beginning to catch up with the warm front now, moving faster, warm air flowing up and over a cool boundary. And that cold air undercutting the warm air right about here. This is where you could get an occluded front, sometimes if the cool air races and catches up to the warm front. But that cool front undercutting the warm moist air, quick to lift the storms, gives you thunderstorms. Sometimes they are severe. The warm air overrunning the cold to the north could give you rain or snow out of the same system that gives you possible severe storms, and you get that a lot in the springtime.
Now that we better understand what a front is, let's take a look at some of the different types of weather associated with fronts. Jeanetta Jones has that story.
Fronts are boundaries between contrasting air masses. They're responsible for changing weather and sometimes bad weather. Warm front symbols are colored red with round notches. Cold front symbols are blue with spikes. Here's an example of how interaction between fronts and air masses works. The blue dome, or cold front, wedges under the warm air, the red arrow lifting it to form clouds and rain. The steeper the lift, the more violent the weather. With a warm front, warm air replaces cold air on a much more gradual slope. The clouds and precipitation may extend for hundreds of miles. The changes that fronts can bring depend on the season. A winter cold front could replace 50-degree temperatures with 30-degree temperatures and snow. A summer cold front could drive 95-degree air down to 75 degrees. Jeanetta Jones, the Weather Channel.
7 years ago today, a massive flood hit upstate New York. Folks up there will never forget this one, as a portion of the New York State Thruway actually did collapse on this day, caused by a major low pressure area moving up along the eastern seaboard. And what happened was part of the New York Thruway bridge near the town of Amsterdam fell in because of flooding along the Schoharie Creek. 10 people died, and as well we had others that were injured across this area. 7 inches of rain and massive flooding occurring during this event. Now, another weather event, not on this date, but look at this. November 11th, 1911. Rather ironic, but here's what happened. We're talking about fronts today, right? Well, we had a nice warm air mass ahead of a cold front, and on that date, November 11th of 1911, the actual high for the day hitting 83 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, but by midnight that night, all the way down to 17 degrees. And how about this one? More impressively, in a 1-hour period, over in Independence, Kansas, not too far out of Kansas City, the temperature behind this front, which was at 83, behind that wicked cold front, dropping down to 33 in 1 hour's time. 50 degrees in 1 hour.
Well, crazy time of the year then and now. This time of the year, thunderstorms are often associated with fronts. This year, those storms have already caused many deaths and millions in damage. Dave Schwartz takes a closer look at thunderstorms.
Did you know an average of 45,000 thunderstorms occur each day? They can happen anywhere at any time. When air at the surface of the earth rises, it cools, so moisture condenses to form clouds. This is the cumulus stage. At this point, the storm consists entirely of updrafts. If there is a strong wind aloft, like a jet stream above the cloud, air is pushed off the top, allowing warm, moist air to be drawn in at the lower levels. This adds energy to the storm. Next, the water droplets and ice crystals that make up the cloud become too heavy for the updraft to support, so they fall. As they drop, they pull air downward, creating downdrafts. The final result, a mature thunderstorm, one that produces thunder, lightning, and in extreme cases, tornadoes. Dave Schwartz, the Weather Channel.
As we well know, April is a very transitional month in which you start relatively chilly, then warm up quite a bit as we get into the early part of May. Take a look at our planting calendar here for you again. May want to hold off on any kind of planting till about May 1st if you're up there in Iowa and Illinois. But safe to say you should be in pretty good shape now in the areas in the blue and the red. Now where the green and the red meet, from there southbound, on average, we've already had our last freeze, but still waited out till about the middle of the month in the areas in the green. Let's take a look at what that means now. By the 10th of April, you should be relatively safe around Little Rock and Dallas and in the southern Atlanta suburbs. By the 20th, things get relatively mild up in parts of Missouri as well, part of the Ohio Valley area. But as you get northbound, you have to wait until the end of the month if you're up around, say, Baltimore or Washington, D.C. Now today, a major cold front coming on across the Midwest as well as down the Front Range of the Rockies. Amazingly, yesterday temperatures were in the 70s in Pueblo, Colorado. Today, Pueblo is in the 20s. Denver had been in the 70s 2 days ago, now 32. A couple of inches of snow on the ground. And indeed, that cold air making some headway south and east, so that 70 in Little Rock will be a memory by tomorrow. Look at these changes, pretty remarkable. From Chicago down through Wichita, down into the Oklahoma City area, back into Amarillo, temperatures falling 20 to 50 degrees below where you sat this time yesterday, but still very mild back east. But again, that cold air is going to win the battle as it tracks on east later on in the week. And for tonight, some very cold air looming ahead. So it looks like teens getting down behind our low into parts of Kansas and Nebraska. 20s getting down into parts of North Texas, even the Dallas area getting down into the low 30s. So a very cold air mass coming up tomorrow morning on April 6th. All right, if you want to find out more regarding fronts, check out Chapter 10.